everybody, and welcome back to Cosplay is a Community Season 2! I'm so excited I get to do Season 2. I received multiple and lovely feedback from all of you about everything and about the show, and everyone was just so supportive. So thank you so much for supporting the podcast and for supporting the show. But without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce our first cosplay guest for Season 2. Starting with Cosplays, Sarah has combined her love of theater and performance with her ever-changing rise of fandoms into a hobby that has just reached its 11th year. Throughout the last decade, she has started styling some of her own wigs, making small props by hand, and even picked dancing back up to help earn a Best Performance award with one of her closest friends. Her love of being on stage had even allowed her to begin a small career in drag. You can typically find her dressed as either fancy ladies or gross dudes. And she's eager for where her next adventure in the community will lead her. All right, otherwise known as Les Sarah. Sarah, hi. It's lovely to see you.
Good to see you
It's
too.
lovely to see you. Yes! All right, so let's get started. So how did you start cosplaying?
So, it was so long ago I can barely remember, but I think I just started picking up doing like random makeup at home, and I realized I had some pieces I got from my older sister that could like technically be like cosplay stuff for like Danganronpa and like Homestuck, and just getting to, try that at home. And then my school had an anime club, and the first con I ever went to was, I think, Mizumi Con back in 2015, and that introduced me to cosplay and the like whole community around it. And I just remember having a lot of fun, and I remember learning about like San Japan, and that was my first like big con. And I just remember having so much fun and wanting to keep doing it. And
That's awesome.
yeah.
I didn't know you've been cosplaying for that long, actually, until
Yeah,
I read your bio.
I look back and I'm like, wow, it has been a decade.
You know what? And that's okay. So, speaking of, you've been doing this for a decade. How do you think your style has evolved since you started? Because you started with closet cosplays. Do you still do closet cosplays? You make more stuff? Like, how's it evolved since then?
I tried to do closet cosplays or stuff that I can easily thrift, because lately the like pre-assembled cosplays are getting more and more expensive, and the shipping costs have been getting really expensive. But from like lately, I've just been trying to do something that's like super easy but super recognizable, and definitely starting to make my own stuff has been really, really helpful. And if there's something I can't personally do, I do have friends that know how to sew and know how to, style wigs a lot better than I can. And it's definitely good to have in the community people that you can rely on to help you with the patches you don't fully know how to do yet. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, you have a very talented sibling that's also been on this show who styles wigs. And I was like, that's gotta be like, by the way, context for people who are listening, Vic, who was on the season, I think episode 9 episode with Project Braveheart, is twins with Sarah. So,
Yeah.
which is funny. I mean, we can talk about that too as an additional on like, do you cosplay with Vic often, and like how does that work?
Yeah, we really started because our first like twin cosplay was Junko and Mukuro from Danganronpa, and
That's hilarious.
we try to match as much as we can if we're not in the same. If we're like so if we find twins in a show that we like, we both like, hey, like, Jujutsu Kaisen is just getting its 3rd season, and we've been wanting to cosplay Maki and Mai again, which they're 2 characters that mean a lot to us. And It just it feels expected of us, but also it's always been fun when we have, and I still really enjoy it.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I'm like, gosh, and like my sister will sometimes cosplay with me, and so sometimes we're like, oh, okay, we should match, or we should just do it together. I feel like it's so fun when you have a sibling to do it with. So that's always fun for me.
Mhm.
So, moving on to like a different question. So you are also a disabled cosplayer, as well as
Mhm.
putting it. So, what is specifically your disability, and how does that shape how you tackle cosplay in any sort of way?
So I have a long line of bad knees on both sides of my family, and three separate times since 2018, I have pulled and then popped the muscle in my left knee, and that has since caused a lot of like pain. Or whenever I walk around a lot, it's just really difficult for me sometimes. And so because of that, I have a cane now that I use for like conventions or days I know I'm going to be standing or walking around a lot. Um, I have a compression brace that helps with the pain and helps me at work. And I am a little blessed with my job because if they know I'm going to be stationary or if there's not a lot going on at the moment, they do give me permission to sit down and continue to work, and it's been really really helpful. I'm glad that at least I have the ability to do that. Um, the first con I ever started using my cane at was OniCon last year, last October, and it was definitely a big help. And I've been definitely wanting to incorporate um like how I use it with other cosplays. And there's a specific I'm sure you've seen whenever I cosplay Jinx at Delta H, I got myself a different cane and I decorated it as to how like she would have, and it was able to blend in with the cosplay itself. I personally think that not every cosplay has to have uh like if you have a mobility aid, it doesn't have to match, but um I just think for certain like for competing pieces, it helps pull the look together, and I did get a lot of compliments on it, and
Yeah,
it's definitely been really helpful.
yeah, I remember seeing that. That was super cool. I had
Mhm.
never seen like someone decorate like that, like your mobility aid, or decorate like a cane
Mhm.
like that for a cosplay. Um, I've seen another cosplayer, Adorkable Me. She's like also like partially like mobile, like so she uses a wheelchair a lot, and I know
Mhm.
that was something about like one of her cosplays that I like, that she decorated the wheelchair. Or like Rose Opal is another one. I think she
Mhm.
has like a fancier like electronic wheelchair that she decorates too. So
Mhm.
like I always think it's super cool when they incorporate it with it.
Mhm. I was actually
Um
inspired by I think their name is Violet Fawn. I met them at OniCon. They actually incorporate bigger props into their mobility aids. Like they cosplayed Vi from Arcane and made her gauntlets to fit like around their crutches. And
oh wow.
Cubone from Pokemon, the big bone that it carries, they fastened it and shaped it around a different pair of crutches. I really thought that
That's
was really cool and really inspiring to show that disability isn't always something that can be something that either like holds you down in terms of cosplay or limits you. And it's, like I said, really inspiring to see people work around what they have and make it into something really incredible.
yeah, I agree. Um so with that, because you've been going to conventions, and you since around 2019 you started using like your cane or mobility aid, do you think that these spaces have gotten better at accommodating people that have disabilities, or do you think there's still some improvements that need to be done on that? What is your take on it?
Um, Compared to last year, Delta H has definitely improved, but I think it could be just a little better. Like, I know last year they didn't have ramps at all for people that had wheelchairs or difficulty using stairs, and then they had a ramp, but it was built kind of clunkily, and it was a little difficult. I remember one of my friends telling me it was a little difficult to maneuver around the tight space of the staircase with their wheelchair. But it's definitely a step forward. And I think with a few more improvements, it can be fully accommodating. From what I've seen from other cons, it just depends on location. I know a lot that take place in hotels have plenty of spaces to either sit, or they can have sitting areas set up. So it's definitely it's a step forward in the right direction. I just wish a few places took a bit more of them.
Yeah, I remember that was something like came up when we were doing AggieCon, and it was like the carpet. Like, as a someone who's like been on like a staff position like that, you don't think about like, oh well, if someone has to get their wheelchair across the carpet, like they can't do it because the carpet's so thick. So like I've definitely learned, at least like from seeing like that type of experience, that you have to really, like when you're planning these things out, you really have to consider everything, and you really have to consider um like disabilities and all of these things too. And I know something that I like about Anime Frontier, which we've glazed Anime Frontier so many times on this podcast, but something that I like about them, and one, their cosplay contest is mega accommodating. They have ramps everywhere. Like, they are super nice, super sweet. But also something that's not even in the cosplay contest that I like, is that they have like this tea lounge, and it's like a chill out room, or like a desensitization room, and like even with someone who just doesn't isn't diagnosed with anything at all, like I love that room. I would go sit
Mm-hmm.
in that room all day. Like it's so nice to just have that space there for people who need it, or just for people who don't want it, because sometimes you're sitting out in the, I know like one of our friends EXO, who's also been on this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
um is like epileptic, and so sitting by the people using Flash at like the um meetups, they couldn't sit there because it would give them a seizure, so they had to go sit
Mm-hmm.
in that room, so instead of opposed to like sitting out in the hallway. So that was, I will say, MA Frontier, I'll keep glazing you till the day I die. But
Yeah, I haven't been to A Front in like 2 years, and I really want to go back because I just remember having such a good time. I really hope I can go this year.
yes, I love Anime Frontier. But anyway, but back to the question. So, um, when you, speaking of like when you perform or when you do like drag performances, like how do you take your disability into account whenever you're planning out your performances?
Mm,
If you take it into
it's
account at all.
yeah. I try to keep my focus on moving around, like, and not being stationary, because standing still for too long definitely um makes it hurt. And there's also a few times where I have to forego certain dance moves, or certain just certain things that the song would like. I guess people would expect from it, because I can't risk, hurting myself, or um, getting in a position where I can't stand up again. That did happen. My second or third time performing in drag, I ended up trying something risky and kneeling on the ground, and I did need help standing up afterwards. And it's fun to take risks like that, but also there will be times where I have to think about the setting and the situation, and plan beforehand if I can or can't do something like that.
Yeah,
That makes any sense.
that's crazy. I
Mm-hmm.
feel bad. No. I don't imagine getting so like no death dropping like on the
No.
floor. Oh gosh,
There's so many that
that's
can do
so
like that like duck walk, and I get so jealous because it looks so funny and it looks so easy, but I know I won't be able to do it. But it's
because
fine.
it's
I
like, but it's okay because you're amazing anyway. So like that's all that matters. So going into a different topic, why do you think it's important to show disabled cosplayers in on social media in different aspects? Why do you think that is so important?
because we as a community always say cosplay is for everyone, and we've always meant it. We've always been a place for everybody to not feel excluded, and seeing more and more disabled people being a part of a community and being welcomed and being accommodated for, it's really, really refreshing because it's, not the standard for a lot of places. And it's just really nice seeing people go out of their way. I don't want to say go out of their way, but like recognize what can be done better for people that aren't, or I like that need a bit more assistance in like day-to-day life, and um maybe just need just a little extra accommodation in terms of like the little things, like more places to sit, more hydration spots, more places that are like low lights and low sensory for like people that get overstimulated easily, or like you mentioned with EXO about needing a place that doesn't have flashing lights. And knowing that there are places that people can go to and still like gets to just be themselves and have fun with a community that they've built is, it's really, really refreshing, especially since I remember being younger and not seeing that as much. And
Yeah, I agree.
I've definitely noticed it a bit more since I've been needing a mobility aid. It's There are definitely places that could accommodate better, but there are definitely places that are miles ahead from where they used to be.
Yeah. Do you think that social media definitely plays a part in that? Like, do you think that cons are seeing more like people with disabilities coming out and like, expressing their issues and concerns and then them making those changes?
I did notice that, yes. It's really convenient that a lot of cons have public accounts or um, like just emails that they can receive assorted critiques or compliments on. And it's really obvious that a lot of the team really cares for those kinds of things because although it is a way to just get them more money, it also shows that they care about things like that enough to want to make a difference and change how things typically are.
Yeah. And like coming from a staff standpoint, I think that was something like we even realized with AggieCon too. Like when we got emails about that or we got concerns about that, like that was probably the best way to bring awareness about those things because if you're not disabled or if you've never had to go through that before, sometimes you just don't know or sometimes you just that's not your day-to-day life experience. So if you don't need a ramp, then maybe you're not going to think of a ramp. But I'd like to get to like a point where at least most conventions would like consider it or at least like put on their form like, oh, do you need ADA access, like do you need all of these accommodations, like and list them out, and then you can go through them and like determine like who needs those and be able to accommodate for them. And I think
Hmm.
that that's definitely important. So what is your advice to other disabled cosplayers in the community if you had to give any of them any advice?
Um, the best advice that I've noticed goes a long way is don't be afraid to speak up if you need a break. Like, if just from a recent experience, walking around a bunch and you start falling behind a little bit, it's okay to be like, hey, can we slow down a little bit? Or if we've been walking for a certain amount of time, I mentioned that I need just maybe not even 5 minutes to sit down and recollect myself. And advocating for whatever it is you need is always important, and it's always important to prioritize your health and your feelings over, I guess, anything else. Because, like, if you're with the right group of people, they'll understand and immediately change course, and they'll immediately try to find ways to accommodate that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Drinking, and that goes for able people too. If you need a break at a convention or if you need a break anywhere, if you're with the right people, they'll make sure you get that break and they'll make sure that you're eating and drinking water and all of those things. It's very important to take care of yourself, especially at conventions. Well, we're almost out of time. Which is crazy. But with our like last 5 minutes or so, can you answer the question, how has cosplay shaped you as an individual? And I'll let you answer that however you'd like.
um, it's definitely given me much more confidence as to who I am and what I can and can't do. As mentioned in my like intro, stepping out of my shell and performing again, despite after so long, I was able to get a best performance award, and it's because of the person I was performing with, and the confidence that we both had together and the chemistry we had. And it just meant the world getting to perform with him and being able to do something that I didn't think was possible despite not performing for so long. I've definitely noticed that practice always makes perfect, whether it's with sewing or with dancing or with styling, anything, and especially with makeup. Uh, just keep practicing and keep perfecting. I don't want to say perfecting it, because there's no room for perfection in making anything by hand, but perfecting it in your own unique way and making it something that you can be proud of is it's definitely the end goal for basically anything. It's, how can I start this? How can I finish it? How can I polish it? How can I keep at it in a way that makes it look cohesive? And what can I do afterwards to either improve or change? Because the thing about cosplay is it's always changing, it's always improving, and it's always fun to just sit down and plan out things and see it to the end. Because that's a big thing. I know some people tend to not finish projects because they don't like the way it's going, and that's definitely okay. It's okay to start something and not like where it's going and end up recycling it or moving on to something different and using pieces of that later. And the biggest advice I can give is, you are your own judge, you are your own critique, and sometimes it's okay to lower the standards just a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Well said. Well said. Yeah, we've talked about a lot of that on the show, how sometimes we need to remember using one of my guests, whatever they said, I keep saying it, that some people forget the play in cosplay. And I think that's definitely true, because cosplay is supposed to be fun. If you're not having fun, then then what is the point? You must have fun while you're dressing up.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
feel
This is a
so.
hobby for a lot of people, and why bother pursuing a hobby if you're not having fun with it?
Right. And I definitely agree with that. Well, we are out of time for today, but Sarah, tell them where they can follow you on social media.
You can find me on Instagram and TikTok as Lesara. It's LEH_SARAH. I post cosplays, and I've been doing and posting more drag related stuff, and it's definitely been a good experience being in this community. Yeah. I don't know how to close it
Yeah!
off.
That's okay. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for coming on the show today. And thank you for listening and watching. Remember, if you haven't caught up on season 1, you can watch all of season 1 on Spotify and on YouTube. And you can watch this episode at any time in those same 2 places. But that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, cosplay is a community, so make it one. And goodbye, and we'll see you in the
Bye.
next one.
Goodbye.
Bye!
Thank you.